Hi everyone, welcome to class. I'm Kate, and today's class is for upper intermediate learners, and it's about the third conditional. And today's class is one of many classes available here on Burbling. We have classes 24 hours a day, and in all different languages, so wherever you are in the world, you can practice and learn the language of your choice. All right. So, hi Adela. Adela? Okay, not sure if she can hear me. Okay, so we have some students arriving. Again, today's class is about the third conditional. In English, the third conditional is used to express unreal situations. Some of you may have seen my video about the first and second conditionals. The first conditional is used to talk about real situations, the second about hypothetical situations, both in the future. And the third conditional is different. It's used to talk about the past, and it's about things that we would like to change in the past. Okay, so for those of you who are here, I've met both of you before. So Adela, how are you doing?
Hello. Hi.
Hi. Great, nice to see you. Nice to have you here. And Sung-Ming?
Hello, good to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Good to see you too. Okay, so, and Sung-Ming, remind me where you're calling from?
I'm from Hong Kong.
From Hong Kong, okay, great. And how long have you been studying English?
Maybe over 2 years.
Over 2 years, that's great. And your native language is?
My native language is Cantonese.
Is Cantonese, wow. I've heard
Yeah,
that's a very difficult language to learn and to speak.
yeah, that
Yeah.
is very difficult than the Mandarin.
Yeah, more difficult than Mandarin, right? That's what I've heard. So, okay. And so have either of you studied the or the third conditional before?
Yes.
Yes, you have? Okay. And you, Sumi?
I'm sorry.
Have you
Uh,
studied, sorry,
yes.
have you studied the third conditional before?
First continue. First condition.
The
That's
first,
is it?
sorry?
No. Maybe I haven't. Maybe I
Yeah.
haven't.
Okay. All right, but you said you've studied the first conditional.
Yes.
Yes.
I
Okay.
may confuse the first condition.
Okay, no problem. So, so today I'll give you the structure of the class for today. First, we're going to just do a quick review of the conditional. Sorry, I was just looking at your comment, Sung-Ming, asking Adela how often she changes her picture. I've only seen her change it once, so anyway. Okay, so let's see. We'll review all of the conditionals, and then we'll go into detail on the grammatical structure of the third conditional, because it can be a little bit difficult. It's a little bit complicated. And then we will do some activities to practice using the third conditional, and then we'll do some speaking. Okay, any questions before we get started?
No.
No. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen with you to review the grammar, and then I'll come back when we do the exercises. Okay. All right, so today we're talking about conditionals. And we'll start by just reviewing some of the conditionals. Right, the first conditional is used to talk about the present and the future. And it expresses a possible condition and a probable result in the future. So this is used for real or possible situations. Can I have someone read these two examples of the first conditional?
If the weather is nice, we will go for a walk.
Mm-hmm. And the
If you
next one?
don't If you don't apologize, she will never trust you again.
Great, thanks, Adela. Let's see. Chow, you've just joined us.
Yes.
Hi, how are you?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh,
Okay,
I'm new here.
you're new. Okay, well, I'm Kate. It's great to have you in class.
Hello, Kate.
Okay, so have you learned about the third conditional before, Chow?
Oh, I haven't learned yet.
Okay, great. Well, you will today. So right now we're just reviewing the first and second. We're going to do a quick review of first and second conditional. Then we'll go into detail on third conditional, and then we'll do some practice with written activities and some speaking practice. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so great. So Adela just read these examples very nicely. So here we have in the first conditional, in the if clause, which verb tense do we use? What is? Which tense is this?
Present simple.
Present simple. Great. And then in the main clause, we're using the future simple, right? Will plus the infinitive. Okay.
I have a question, teacher.
Sure.
Uh, if the weather is nice, we would go for a walk. What's the meaning between the would and will in this sentence?
Okay, so I'll actually show you. They're different conditionals. Okay, so here we have the first conditional. When we use would, it means we're using the second conditional. So let's see, Chow, can you read this scenario, an example for me?
Oh, yes. Jack wants to buy a house, but he can't do this because he doesn't have any money. If I had a lot of money, I would buy a big house.
Okay, great, thank you. So here we're using the second conditional to talk about a situation that is hypothetical, right? So Jack doesn't have money, but he's imagining what he would do if he did have money. And he says, right, he says, if I had a lot of money, I would buy a big house. Okay, so does everyone see the difference between first and second conditional? With first conditional, we're saying this is a probable situation, and I'm telling you what I will do, right? And with the second conditional, we're talking about something hypothetical. It's unreal. And so here in the second conditional, we're using in the if clause the past simple, right? Oops. So had or knew. And in the main clause, we're using would plus the infinitive. Okay, so would buy, would phone. And one note, with all of these conditional sentences, in my examples, I have the if clause first, but we can also put the main clause first. So it's fine to say, I would buy a big house if I had a lot of money. Right? The meaning is exactly the same. And there's just one thing to note. If you put the if clause first, you need to have a comma after. But if you put the main clause first, you don't need a comma. All right, any questions about the second conditional?
No.
No. Okay.
Yeah, I have a question in
Okay.
the conditional. That's mean mm, he never have the money in his life.
Mm-hmm.
Not
Correct.
no.
Right, so he's saying that he doesn't have money, right? This is a fact. But he's imagining what he would do if he did have money. So he's imagining a hypothetical uh, or imaginary situation. Okay?
Oh yeah.
Great. Finally, we can get to the third conditional. Okay, so before, in the second conditional, we had this situation, right? Jack is imagining a hypothetical situation where he did have money. And he says, If I had a lot of money, I would buy a big house. Okay, let's look how this is different in the third conditional. So who else do we have here? Amr?
Hi, teacher.
Hi, how do you pronounce your name?
Amr.
Amr. Okay, can you read, so this is the scenario. Can you read the scenario?
Okay. Jack wanted to buy a house last year, but he couldn't do that because he didn't have any money.
Okay, excellent. And the conditional sentence?
If I had had a lot of money, I would have bought a big house.
Great. Thank you very much. So now, before in the second conditional, we were talking about an imaginary situation in the present or future, right? But here, with the third conditional, we're talking about the past. So here, this is an unreal and impossible situation because we're talking about an alternate past, essentially. So here, last year, Jack didn't have money, and he wanted to buy a house, but he could not because he couldn't afford it. And so now, in the present, he's imagining a different past. And he says, if I had had a lot of money, I would have bought a big house. But I didn't have money, so I didn't buy the house. Questions? Okay, let's look at one more example. Adela, can you read the scenario?
Okay, yesterday Susan wanted to phone Paul, but she couldn't do that because she didn't know his number.
Great, thank you. And Ming, can you read the conditional sentence?
If I had known his
No.
number, no, yeah, I would have phoned him.
Great. So if I had known his number, I would have phoned him. So here, again, we have an unreal situation. We're talking about the past, and we know what happened, right? She wanted to phone someone, but she was unable to phone him. And now, in the present, she's imagining how things would have been different, right? She's saying, I didn't know his number, but if I had known it, I would have phoned him. Okay, and let's look at the structure of the third conditional. So here are our two examples, right? Number one, if I had had a lot of money, I would have bought a big house. If I had known his number, I would have phoned him. So in the if clause, we're using the past perfect simple, right? So that's always had plus the participle. Had known, had eaten, had run, had felt, had given, right? Had plus the past participle, which is the past perfect. And then in the main clause, we're using would plus have plus the past participle. And just a note, when we say would, we mean modal verbs. So this could also be could or should. Okay, but most often it's would. All right. AKA Ken, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. How
Yes.
are you?
Good, how are you?
Yes, I'm fine, thank you.
Great. Would you mind reading this description for me?
Okay, third conditional refers to the past, and it is not based on fact. It expresses the a situation or this situation, and which is contrary to reality in the past.
Okay, that's my fault. It expresses a situation which is contrary to reality in the past. Okay, sorry about that.
No problem.
Okay, great. So, any questions about about anything we've talked about so far? All right, so I want to quickly look at the difference between second and third conditional. because this is quite important. Okay, so let's see, who else is here again? Chao, why don't you read this example for me?
Okay. If I saw a car accident, I would call an ambulance. But I don't see an accident now. This is unlikely to happen.
Great, thank you. And so is this second or third conditional?
Second conditional.
Excellent, it's second conditional, right? So we're talking about a hypothetical situation, and what the speaker is saying what they would do in this hypothetical situation. All right, can you read the next one? Let's see, so Ming, can you read the next one?
If I had seen a car accident, I would have called an ambulance.
Right, okay. But I didn't see an accident yesterday. This is contrary to the fact. Okay, so again, the main difference, besides which verb tenses we use, is time. In the second conditional, we're talking about the present and future. And in the third conditional, we're talking about the past, about an alternate past. Okay, so any questions about what we've talked about this grammar? Okay, are you ready to do some practice?
Okay.
All right. Okay, so thank you for bearing with me. I know that was kind of a lot, and I think it'll become clearer, all of this, if we do some practice. All right, so let me send you a document. Okay, so here, actually, I think I'm going to, yes, there is a bit of noise. Okay, so I'm going to actually share my screen again with you. Well, let's see, would you prefer to follow on through a shared screen, or would you prefer to each look at a Google Doc?
I think share the screen.
Shared screen? Okay. So we're going to do some exercises. First on the third conditional, and then on using different conditionals. Okay, so the first one will just be to practice forming the third conditional. Okay, so
Sorry, it's a bit small. Okay.
Okay.
Now it's okay. Yeah.
all right,
Okay.
let's see. Is this better?
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
better.
Great. So let's just do these together. Okay. So Ming, can you read the instructions?
First, in a conditional, fill the gap using the verb in practice. Think very carefully about the meaning of the phrase before deciding whether to use negative or positive verb form.
Okay, great. So here, you're going to have to use the third conditional to fill in the phrases, and sometimes they will be negative. Okay, so you have to look at the context and decide if you're using a positive or negative form of the verb. Okay, so do we have a brave person who will volunteer to do number 1?
Yes.
Okay, Adela, go ahead.
I wouldn't have been angry if you haven't decided to go out with your friends.
Okay, not quite. So here it needs to be positive.
Yes.
So I wouldn't have been angry if you, let's look at the form of the third conditional. So we have in the if clause. So we have the main clause first here. So it's subject plus would plus have.
You
So here we have to,
have decided, no?
if you had decided.
But it's not negative, I think.
No, so this one's, I mean, it could be negative, right? But it makes more sense in positive. So the meaning is you didn't decide to go out with your friends, but if you had, I would have been okay with it. I would not have been angry.
Okay.
Okay, good. All right, who can do number 2?
Okay, me.
Go ahead.
If he had known you were in hospital, he would have visited you.
Sorry, there's a typo. It should say, if he had known you were in the hospital, he would have visited you. Great. So here, in the first sentence, we had the main clause first, and then the if clause. In this sentence, we have the if clause and then the main clause, right? So we have if subject plus past perfect subject plus, okay, is that clear? All right. Who can do number 3?
Okay, let me try.
Okay, go ahead.
We wouldn't have come by taxi if we had found the right bus.
Excellent. Right, so to find is an irregular verb. We have find, found, or has, right? So great. We wouldn't have come by taxi if we had found the right bus. Great. And quickly, I just want to note that here, how can we make you had into a contraction?
You do.
You'd, right?
You'd.
So here we can say you'd. What about he would?
He'd.
He'd.
He apostrophe D. And then we had
We'd.
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 So we often say the contraction, right, if we'd found the right bus. But it's absolutely natural to say if we had found the right bus as well. Both are correct. Okay. Number 4. Who can do number 4?
Okay.
Okay?
We would have visited the Prado Gallery if we had had time.
Yeah. Okay, great. And so this might look strange to non-native speakers, right? To have had, but it's totally normal and it's correct, right? So we would have visited the gallery if we had had time, or if we'd had time,
Yes.
right? So don't worry about writing had. It's usually correct. Okay. Number 5.
If you hadn't been asking me questions all the time, I would have enjoyed the film.
Excellent, Anella. I would have
Enjoy you.
enjoyed the film. Great. Number 6.
Okay, let me try. If I'd known your number, I'd have found.
Yeah, if I'd known your number, I'd have phoned.
Mhm.
Excellent. Great. Okay, number 7.
If just one person had remembered my birthday, I wouldn't have been sad.
Excellent. Right? So here, if just one person had remembered my birthday, I wouldn't have been sad. So here, great spot, Adela. You knew that it had to be negative. Because what happened? What's the situation here?
Any person has remembered the birthday.
Yeah, no one has remembered her birthday or his birthday, right? And so he or she was very sad. But if just one person had remembered, things would have been different. He wouldn't or she wouldn't have been so sad. Okay. Number 8.
Mm, can I?
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I would have understood the film if um, it hadn't been in German.
Excellent. So yeah, here we have to use the negative, assuming that we don't speak German. What would the correct answer be for someone who was a German speaker? How would the answer be different if this was someone who did know how to speak German?
Had been.
Yeah, right, it would be positive. So here we have the sentence spoken by me, for example, right? I do not speak German, so. But if it were a German speaker, it would be I would, right? Is that clear to everyone?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Number 9.
They would come to see.
Okay,
Sorry?
go ahead. Mm, They would have come to see you if they had they hadn't been away.
Great, yeah. They would have come to see you. Perfect. Okay, number 10.
If she had gone on a holiday on a double yellow line, she wouldn't have got a fine.
Okay, the verb is to park here.
If she had parked on a double yellow line, she wouldn't have got a fine.
Okay, does everyone agree?
Parked.
In negative, no?
I think it should be negative, right?
I like.
Yeah.
Yes,
Otherwise,
yes.
perfect. Yeah, because if you park on a double yellow line, it's illegal. Okay, and just a note, this is British English, right? She wouldn't have got a fine. In the United States, we would say she wouldn't have gotten a fine. So I would say so for me, this sounds more natural. If she hadn't parked on a double yellow line, she wouldn't have gotten a fine. But either is correct. So got or gotten. Okay. Number 11.
If I'd known you were coming, I would have begged a cake.
Great. Okay, and let's just end with number 12, and then we'll move on to the other activity. If she,
Teacher, by the way, the verb get.
uh-huh,
American English, they say gotten or got.
gotten.
Gotten.
So I would say it like this, right? In number 10, um, she wouldn't have gotten a fine, but
Yes.
in British English, they say she wouldn't have got.
Okay.
So it's similar
But
to
but
the,
this is correct.
yeah, it's similar to the, when you're an elementary learner, you probably learned I have or have got, right?
Yes.
And so in British English, they say, I've got a bus ticket, or I've got a dog. They use have got. For Americans, we just say I have. I have a dog, I have a bus ticket.
Yeah.
We don't use the got.
Yes.
But both are correct, obviously. Okay, good question. Let's finish with number 12.
Let me have a try.
Go ahead.
If she hadn't unlocked hadn't leave the shed unlocked,
Good.
they wouldn't have stolen her bike.
Perfect. Great. Okay, so Chow, that was great. To leave is an irregular verb, right? So here the participle is left. And so the past perfect is, and it's negative, is hadn't left. Very good. Okay. So here, did her bike get stolen?
Yes.
Yes, right? And so she's imagining a different scenario in the past, what she could have done differently to prevent her bike from getting stolen. Okay, we're going to move on to this activity, but before we do, does anyone have questions?
Mm.
Okay, so that was the third conditional. Here we're going to just do a little bit of practice with mixed conditionals. Okay, so here we have first, second, and third, and you have to choose the appropriate conditional tense. Okay, so let's look at the example sentence first. Amr, can you read the example?
If I had lots of money, I would sail round the world.
Good, and it's number 2. It's a conditional. It's a second conditional. Okay,
Mm.
right. So in the first blank, we're going to put the correct verb form, and then at the end, we'll say which type of conditional it is.
Can I do the next one?
Absolutely.
If my sister, um, if my sister sees sees this uh, puppy, she will love it.
Great.
The first conditional.
Excellent. Yeah. So in the if clause, we have the present simple, and in the main clause, we have the future simple. It's the first conditional. And what's a puppy?
Dog.
I don't know.
A baby dog,
It's a
right?
little dog.
A small dog. Okay, good. Just checking. Okay, number 3.
If I had packed the suitcase myself, I wouldn't have left my swimsuit.
Good, Adela. So here we
First
have
conditional.
third conditional, right? A third conditional. So here in the if clause, we have the past perfect. In the main clause, we have would plus have plus the past participle. And in this case, it's negative. Okay, so another question. Did she leave her swimsuit?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, right? She did. She left her, in reality, she left her swimsuit. But she's imagining how the past would be different, would have been different, if she had packed her suitcases. Okay, very good, Adela. Number 4.
We we
We could say
mm,
Good. We could sit.
in the garden if the weather were nice. That's second conditional.
Great. The second conditional. Okay. Excellent. All right, and so yeah, so here we're just using could instead of would. It's another type of modal verb. Great. Okay, number 5 is a question. Who thinks they can do number 5?
Fred would be bored if you had taken him to the opera.
Almost. So what did you say? You said Fred would be bored?
Be bored?
Okay,
Third
not quite.
conditional. Would have
Yeah,
been bored.
would have been. Okay, so you're correct. It's the third conditional. But when we have a question, what do we do here?
Uh-huh.
We have to
Would
change it. Yeah,
I comprehend.
just like this. right? Good.
Would Fred have been okay?
Yeah, no,
Have
good.
been.
So the only thing we have to do is change the order of the would and the subject, right? So instead of saying Fred would have been bored, we say would Fred have been bored? Okay, great job. Great. Okay, number 6.
I'll wait for you outside the cinema if I arrive early. The first conditional.
Excellent. Good. Number 7.
Val and Cherry would move if they could find a better house.
Excellent. Yeah, this one is tricky because we have would and could in the same sentence. So here, what is could?
A kind of how can I say possibility, or it's
Yeah.
not a past form of can, a kind of possibility.
Okay, here it is a past form of
Past.
can, right? Because we have it in the if clause. So with the second conditional, remember the structure is
But
if.
I heard if it is a past form can was able to more suitable. I have heard of that. So could
Can,
since
yeah,
it's confusing for the
to be
kind of
able to is
condition
the same.
contents, yeah, sentence.
Yeah. You could say if they were able to find a better house. That would be the same. So, but just so
So
you know, so
so
if
to
plus past simple, right, in the if clause. So
yeah.
here, since the missing verb is in the if clause, that's how we know that instead of being a modal verb, could is functioning as the past
Mm.
of can. Just
Yeah,
in.
yeah, I know the form, but a kind of the usage, how can I say?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
if it is not a conditional sentence, were able to, be able to is preferable. I've heard of that. Is it true? I just
uh,
expressed,
I think it's
sentence.
probably, I don't know, they're
So,
both okay, I think.
for
So,
example, I can swim. I could swim, but I was able to swim is better if it is not conditional.
I think
True?
both are okay. So for me, saying
Okay.
I can swim sounds a little bit weird, but saying I'm able to swim also sounds even more strange. In that sentence, I would say I know how to swim. So it really just depends on the context. And I would say that both using can and using to be able to are fine.
Okay.
Okay. A good question. Okay, let's just do a few more and then we'll move on to. Okay. So number 8.
I would have told him my name if he had asked.
Great. And which type of conditional?
The third conditional.
Third. Excellent. Number 9.
If the children want to go to the zoo, will will Dad take them?
Excellent. And which conditional?
Sorry, the first conditional.
The first. Great. And so good. So it's a question. So instead of saying Dad will take them, we say will Dad take them. Good, Adela. Okay, number 10.
If the job was interesting, would you work for this company?
Great.
The
And one
second.
note here, yeah, that's the second. One curious thing that happens with the second conditional, with the verb to be, is that here you can say either was or were.
Well,
Where?
And so I tend to say were, right? If I were a millionaire, I would travel around the world. If he
Yeah.
were taller, he would be happier, whatever, right? But I think were just to me sounds better, but both are correct. Okay? All right.
I thought that we used it when we say, if I were you, I would. But
Yeah, we do. That's the same situation, right? So if I were you, try I would try eating fewer sweets. Okay, so this is when you're giving advice, and this is a second conditional statement. Okay. So if we're saying, if I were you, but think about has anyone heard the Beyonce song, If I Were a Boy?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so here she's saying, right, she says, and then
Yes.
she says all the things she would do if she were a boy, right? So she's not saying if I were you, she's saying if I were a boy. So even Beyonce uses this correctly, right? It's a second conditional.
Teacher, I've read a sonnet on Facebook. It was a status of my friend. He said, if English was a girl, I would have married her. Is it correct?
Mm-mm. This is interesting. Let's look at the sentence. If English. Okay, this is incorrect. Can anyone?
Or I would marry her.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, so this is okay. But for me, it just sounds more natural to say if English were a girl, I would marry her. Right? And that's just one of those weird exceptions in the English language. But a lot of people, a lot of native speakers do say was.
Mm.
Just personally, I think it sounds better to say were. I don't really have a better way of explaining that. Okay, but yeah, this is correct.
Okay.
Okay? Great. So I'm going to come back. Okay. So does anyone have questions before we begin our speaking activity?
Yes, can you review the zero conditional?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So the zero conditional is used, it's not used that often, but it does exist. So I'll give you an example of a zero conditional sentence in the verb chat box. Okay, so the example is, if you heat water, it boils. Okay, so in the if clause, what tense are we using?
Present.
And in the
Present tense.
good, present simple. And in the main clause, what tense are we using?
Also present simple.
Also present simple, yeah? So this is used for things that are absolute facts, right? This is a scientific fact. If you heat water, it boils. Okay, so this is used for things that are always true. And the structure is, in the if clause, we use present simple. In the main clause, we use present simple. Yeah, so Adela, that works too. If I work hard, I earn a lot. Okay, or if, let's see, another good one, what was the other one? If you drop a rock, or if you drop a basketball, it bounces. Okay, so it's used for things that are sort of rules or everyday phenomena that we know what the outcome will be and we're certain of the outcome.
If you join verbling, your English becomes fluent.
Sorry?
If you
Yes.
join verbling,
Excellent. Good. Yeah, a good example. If you join verbling, your English becomes fluent. Okay, very good. All right. So, and yeah, it's for facts. The zero
That's true.
conditional is for facts. Is that true? Someone asked.
Yes.
I think that if you spend enough time on verbling, it can be true. I would use the first conditional for that one,
Yes.
not the zero conditional. Okay. So, any other questions? All right, we're going to do a speaking activity to practice the third conditional. So, Can anyone think of some events that changed history? What are some events in the past that changed history?
I didn't get the question.
Okay, so what are some events, some famous events in the past that changed history? I'll give you some examples. Okay, so Bell invented the telephone. Columbus discovered America. Hitler became leader of Germany. The World Trade Center was destroyed. Leonardo da Vinci was born. And John Logie Baird invented the TV.
If is possible another event.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. What are some other events?
If I had been in the moon, I have put the flag.
A flag. Okay, so just so right now I just want the event. So we'll get to the conditional. But let's just say man lands on the moon. Right?
With a storm. Sorry.
That's okay. Any other famous events that changed history?
Maybe the Beatles.
Yeah, okay. The Beatles. Let's say. Okay, so I think this should be enough. So, looking at these events, my question is, how would the world have been different if these So I want you to use the third conditional to tell me how would the world have been different if these events had not happened.
If the Beatles
If the Beatles,
had not released, sorry, had
good.
not released their first album, the music scene would have been different.
How?
How? I don't know how. Maybe it would have been different. Current kind
Let's
of
say the music
still
scene
acoustic sound is popular or something like that.
okay, let's say the music scene would be wouldn't be as
Wouldn't, yeah,
okay.
would have not seen uh, uh, hmm, like this.
Okay. Yeah, would not be like this. Okay. All right, and so here actually
If
uh-huh.
Bell hadn't invented the telephone, we couldn't have connected for a period of time
Good.
before we before they invented the internet.
Okay, great. Yeah, very good. So, keeping it simple, if Bell hadn't invented the telephone, we couldn't have connected for, let's say, long periods of time. Great. Okay, what else? How else would these things, or how else would the world have been different if these things hadn't happened? For instance, what if Leonardo da Vinci had never been born? This one is tricky because apart from being a third conditional, it's in the passive voice, right? Because you don't say that someone born, right? You say that someone is born or was born. Okay, so Ming, okay, so thank you for your sentence. All right, so he answered a different question, right? If Hitler wasn't born, let's just say Hitler, all right, so here's one problem. Okay, so if Hitler hadn't been born, there wouldn't have been a Second World War. Okay, so your sentence was okay, but this using the third conditional, this is how it would be. Do you see the difference?
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay, great. Okay, good. A good example though. Okay, some other examples. What would happen if, how would the world be different if Da Vinci had never been born?
If the Leonardo had not been
Good.
born, and we wouldn't would I would have not seen Mona Lisa.
Excellent.
Ah,
That's a great example. So, if Leonardo da Vinci hadn't been born, we wouldn't have seen Mona Lisa. Very good, Mike again. Okay. Let's see some other examples. Let's talk about the man who invented the TV. How would life be different without TV?
if man hasn't and no, if man hadn't invented the TV, we wouldn't have known the news.
Great, yeah. So if man hadn't invented the TV, we wouldn't have known the news. Good. What else? What else would be different about the world without television?
If the PC had not been invented,
Okay.
I would not have been here
Yeah.
on my class.
Okay, very true. So if PC hadn't been invented, I would not have been in class today. Great.
Yes.
Okay. What about man lands on the moon? What would happen if we hadn't gone to the moon?
Didn't hear that. Could you repeat?
Yeah, I said. So Adela had the sentence that man landed on the moon. That was an important event. So how would the world be different if we hadn't gone to the moon?
يا عم سألت لك بقول لك عن الموضوع بتاعك هكلمك امتى
Anyone?
Uh,
Conditional.
even if the human would no.
If man hadn't hadn't landed on the moon, we couldn't have invented the satellite.
Okay.
Or is it correct?
Yeah, that was the correct use of, and good. I'm glad you used a different modal verb, right? You used could instead of would. Very good, Amr. So if man hadn't landed on the moon, we couldn't have invented the satellite. Very good. Okay, so we only have a few minutes left, and I just wanted to open it up to any remaining questions you have or comments you would like to make.
Yes, I have a suggestion. If you could make a beginner classes for your next schedule, because I want to revision myself in English, because I haven't practiced speaking
Okay.
English for a long time.
Okay, no problem. So you want me to add more beginner classes?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, so right now I've done mostly intermediate classes. I have done at least one beginner class, and I think, let me check my schedule. I think I have one either tomorrow or the next day. Yeah, on July 9th, so on Wednesday, I have a beginner speaking games class. So there's one beginner class, and yeah, thank you for the suggestion. I'll try to add some more beginner classes when I can. Okay. And any other comments?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you said have and have got, the British and American difference. The meaning of saying have
Yeah,
and I have got.
the meaning
Okay.
of yeah. So I mean, I would say
Mm.
like, so for instance, in school, did you learn American English or British English?
Americans mostly here.
American mostly. Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you, for example, if you say elevator instead of lift,
Yeah.
I would say just stick to one, right? So if you're saying elevator, you should be saying have. If you're saying lift, you should be saying have got. I think it makes sense to just be consistent in which sort of version of English you speak, right? But in
Okay.
general, they're both correct.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you very much.
great, no problem. So thank you all for coming to class. It was great to have you here. And as always, if you have any remaining questions, feel free to send me a message, and I'd be happy to help you out. Okay? So
Thank
have a
you,
great
teacher.
day. Okay, thank you
And
all.
do you have to check,
Thank
do
you
you
very
have a
much.
page on Facebook related
Bye.
to verbling?
I do, yeah, and I'll send you the link. Okay, I'll send you a message with the link.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.